Hello and welcome to Cardboard History. I'm David, and today I want to take a look at a set that I think makes a case for the best set when it comes to Hall of Fame rookie cards. Now, I'm not talking about 1949 Bowman, and it's pretty close between these two sets, but I think that one probably holds a lot more prestige and certainly has, depending on how you look at it and what you consider a rookie card, around 11 rookie cards. That's what the PSA registry has in it. But if you consider the Bond-bred Jackie his true rookie card, then that number goes down. The set that I want to look at today and do a little bit of a deep dive into contains arguably around 11 Hall of Fame rookie cards, which matches that 1949 Bowman set. The difference is that this set contains many people who never played a game of baseball. This is the 1950 to 1956 Callahan Hall of Fame set. Now, the set was produced with only Hall of Famers, except for one guy who did eventually become a Hall of Famer, and we'll get into that later. But because this was the first set that sought to feature everybody that was in the Hall of Fame, there were many people who got into the Hall of Fame because of their contributions off the field, and this was their first chance to be featured on a baseball card. So the set originally came out in 1950. And at that point, it featured 60 different individuals, as well as 2 image cards of the Hall of Fame, one of the exterior and one of the interior. Of those 60 players, 2 of them, Jimmy Fox and Mel Ott, had not yet been elected into the Hall of Fame. So likely the set came out late in 1950, maybe early 1951, because they were inducted in 1951. They were part of the original set. Then each year up until 1956, any new players were added to this set. So the set grew over time with each additional class of inductees. So that means that in 51, you had Mel Ott and Jimmy Fox in 51 that were part of the original set. Then in 52, you added 2 more players, Harry Heilman and Paul Wainer. Got to check my notes here. Then 53, there was 8 players, including Harry Wright and Chief Bender. In 54, 3 new players. And then finally in 1955, the last addition to this set included 6 more Hall of Famers, including Joe DiMaggio. So that brings the total to 82 cards. Now, there are variations in these as well. Some of the players, if they had passed away over the course, the text on the back would get changed, and it would read something differently. And there's different versions of the Hall of Fame image cards that have different text on the back as well. So 91 total if you are looking for the master registry where you have all the different variations. But 82 different subject cards is the way we can put this. So I want to talk a little bit about the artwork and what went behind these cards. And to start off, the artist. These were all hand-sketched cards that were renderings of artwork done by Mario DeMarco, who was an illustrator well known for his work with baseball as well as Western key figures in Western television. And the method that he used is really unique, and you can't really see it on the cards. But I'll pull up here. This is his artwork of Chief Bender. And as you see here, he drew these as full-size pictures, and then on this frame you can see the autograph from Chief Bender at the bottom, and then the card up in the top right corner. So this was done using a method of a lot of tiny little dots, and it's hard to see. I couldn't really find a picture that was zoomed in close enough on original artwork to see it. But when you got up close, it would look something like this. Thousands of little dots that create the shading. This is known as stippling or dot effect in art, and it's really unique. I did a little bit with this when I was in high school and in art class, and so to me it was interesting that back in the 50s somebody was making baseball cards using this method. But these are just some of the original artwork that was sold by REA. This was back in 2006. So just really well done illustrations, pictures using a very difficult method. So to me, really cool artwork. It doesn't have color, but when you get beyond, it's not an a photograph or anything like that. To me, the story behind it is really cool. The artist Mario DeMarco was also really liked the guys, and he would send his artwork to them and ask for autographs in return. And in his obituary, one of his, I think it was his daughter or granddaughter, told a story that he would always say he sent his artwork to Babe Ruth, and Babe Ruth wrote back and said, "I'm keeping this. You'll have to send me another one to sign." So Babe Ruth really appreciated his artwork as well. Now, the ways these were distributed was primarily at the Hall of Fame, but also at ballparks. And they came in a box like this, and it was usually the exterior Hall of Fame card that was on top. So that one can be a little condition sensitive because the window would allow the elements to possibly wear or fade that card. But these are the boxes that they would come in, and each year they were produced and sold at the Hall of Fame and as well as ballparks. And the fact that they were produced each year means that there's different populations and production levels of cards that were only produced for certain years. And I want to kind of talk through that a little bit because there's some really, to me, what's fascinating is the way when you look at the different years of production. Let me see if I can pull this up here and maybe zoom in a little bit. So I broke this down to see which years these were produced and the population and the number of years that they were printed. So if you look at all ones that were printed for all 6 years from 1950 to 1956, the average PSA population is around 237. And these columns here with the asterisks represent players who have back variations. And I found that a lot of times there was a lot higher population count when there were two different variations, if you added those variations together, because people would submit both different backs for the registry. For example, in 1954, you have a couple players here that were just for these 2 years in 1954 to 56, and the average population is 176. But when you look at the ones that have back variations, that jumps by another 50. So there's a 31.8% increase in the population for the ones that have back variations. So the rarest ones, as you would expect, are the ones that were just printed the last year. So this would include DiMaggio. That's why his card is the most expensive card in the set, because it was only produced that last year after he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And on average, players that were inducted in 55 have around 100, 108 on the PSA Pop Report. Then the next rarest is an individual who only had his card produced in 1950 and then it was removed. And again, we'll get to that one later. So here you can see, as you go throughout time, more years that it was printed, the higher the population. So that creates a little bit of scarcity with certain players, especially if you're trying to do the registry or you're trying to get these in a high grade. So that's a little bit of the background of the set. What I want to do is run through the 11 Hall of Famers that have rookie cards in the set. And as we go, we'll talk a little bit about what is the definition of a rookie card, because it is a little bit ambiguous and everyone has kind of their own idea of what they want to consider a rookie card. So first, before I start showing cards, the reason why I went into this set is because it became a key part of my Ken Burns collection. If you watch my channel, you know that I have a large project. It's about 460 cards. That is getting a card from every person that's mentioned in the Ken Burns documentary. That has a card. And in the documentary, he talks a lot about the key early founders of baseball that helped develop the game and executives that played a key role. And for many of them, these are their first cards. They don't have cards from when they were alive or when they were managing, or for some, when they were playing in the very early years of baseball. So that got me interested in this set because I had It would be nine cards for my Ken Burns collection that came from the set, and I finally got the last one. So happy to get those all together, and I wanted to share those with you. There's 2 Hall of Fame rookie cards in the set that were not part of my Ken Burns collection. They weren't mentioned in the documentary, but I wanted to mention them here because they do have their rookie cards. And the first one is Tom Connolly, who is an umpire. Understandably a great umpire, but not somebody who necessarily got recognition in the documentary. And then the other one is Morgan Bull Kelly. And he is what some consider to be the most undeserving Hall of Famer. He had a very short tenure in baseball. He was the first commissioner of the National League, or the first president of the National League. But he was brought in kind of because of that pioneering, the first one to do something. He didn't even try to get the position. He was handed the position because he was the president of one of the teams in the league. The league thought they needed somebody to offer oversight, and nobody wanted to do it, so they drew straws, and he drew the short straw, or his name got drawn out of the basket, however it went down, and he became the commissioner for all of 1 year. But because he was the first commissioner, he gets to be in the Hall of Fame. Other interesting, fun side note, he is the only member of the Baseball Hall of Fame who also served in the Civil War. So he has that unique piece to him as well. So those are the 2 cards that I don't have. I'm going to turn the camera around, and I will show you the cards of the other men. So we will start with A.G. Spalding. So if you know anything about the history of baseball or sports, you know that Spalding is a giant amongst men. He was a pitcher. He started out, realized that there was more money to be made in management, became the president of the Chicago White Stockings, and found there was even more money to be made in selling sporting goods and promoting the game of baseball. And so he became really one of the great promoters of the game of baseball around the world. So this is probably his first widely produced card. Now he has one earlier card from his playing days, which is the G&B gum. And that card has a population of 2 at SGC, and there are no records of that card in the PSA registry. So to me, this is his first widely available card. He does have other things like currency that has his picture on it, as well as postcards, but I don't consider postcards to be rookie cards. And I think the same would go for many modern collectors. You wouldn't consider necessarily some of the exhibits or the postcards of players to supersede their Bowman or top sets. So those, to me, those aren't baseball cards. Those are postcards. They're something different. So as a baseball card, this is his first widely produced, and I would say, based on that definition, his rookie card. Next up is Alexander Cartwright. So Cartwright is one of the really pioneers of baseball. He played with the Knickerbockers that really are credited a lot with creating organized baseball and putting down some of the rules. He helped write some of those rules. The history of it's a little bit shaded or shrouded in mystery and exactly who came up with what first, but he definitely played a key role and an important person in the history of baseball. He does have a postcard, his Hall of Fame plaque postcard that precedes this card, but again, it's a postcard and it doesn't even picture him, it pictures his Hall of Fame plaque. So I would consider this to be Alexander Cartwright's rookie card, even though 75 years after he was making his contributions to the game. Next up is the inventor of the curveball, according to legend, Candy Cummings. And he also has some stamps and a Hall of Fame postcard of his plaque that precede this, but this is his first true baseball card. And This is what the back, there's a little bit of a bio just on the back. And again, this is where you'll get the variations, where some of these will say something different, or if a person passed away between the first printing, they would make mention of their passing. Next up is Henry Chadwick. He is important as the creator of the box score and an early person when it came to organizing stats. If you follow baseball at all, you know it is a math-heavy, statistic-heavy sport. And he is the one creating the box score and a lot of the things that we still track today. That's Henry Chadwick. Next up is one of the early players, and this is his first true card. He does have some oversized cabinets from his playing days, George Wright, and some CDVs. But he was on the first professional baseball team in Cincinnati. His brother, Harry Wright, was the man running that, and George was the highest paid player on that team. And he went on to play for Boston as well. And for being a short man at only 5'9", he really commanded a lot of respect and was the first star of baseball, of at least organized professional baseball. So I mentioned Tom Connolly as one umpire. The other umpire, I do have his card of Bill Clem, and he is mentioned in the Ken Burns documentary, so I wanted to pick up his card. He is really the first great umpire in the history of baseball. He officiated 18 World Series, which is a record I doubt will ever be surpassed. This is his first card. He does have a matchbook that is earlier than this, and he also has, his name is mentioned in the Shutter Johnson set that shows some different tips or facts about baseball, and it mentions Bill, but he's not pictured in that card, so I wouldn't really consider that to be a card of him. It's just a card where he is mentioned. And he also has a die cut in the Al Demery set, so you could maybe make the argument that that's his first card, which precedes this one, but I wanted to get this one. I think it goes well with the rest of the set. Next up is Ed Barrow, and he is most known for his time as manager and president of the Yankees, leading them to their impressive 10 World Series under his direction. President overseeing the likes of Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. Then the last two cards. First one is Albert Happy Chandler. He is the only person in this set to be included in the set when he was not in the Hall of Fame, and the bio mentions that first thing. The High Commissioner of Baseball is not a member of the Hall of Fame. He wasn't yet. He was included in this set when it was first produced, but in July of 1951, he stepped down from the post of being the commissioner. And so he was removed from the set, making this an incredibly hard card to find because it was only produced with the first series of the card. After that first series, he was replaced in the set because he was not a Hall of Famer and he was not the current commissioner of baseball. So who did they replace him with? Well, none other than the first commissioner of baseball, Kennesaw Mountain Landis. Now, I don't know why Landis was not included in the original set. So in 1950, it could be because he wasn't viewed in a great light at the time, but he was the only Hall of Famer not included in that original printing. It was Chandler instead of Landis, even though Landis was in the Hall of Fame. So for whatever reason, they left him out, but when Chandler resigned from the post of commissioner, they decided at that point to include Landis in the set. So this is his card in the set. So his card is unique because it was only produced in like 1951, 52 through the end of the run in 56. And this is his first card as well. And he was the first commissioner of baseball really brought in to bring organization after the Black Sox scandal of 1919. So that is the 1950 to 1956 Callahan set. Hopefully you learned something. If you're like me, you have probably seen these at shows for years and maybe didn't know much about them, or they were a little bit off, a little bit different. maybe even considered an oddball card. But to me, it's interesting when you look at the history of the Hall of Fame and you don't just consider players, but also other people who made important contributions. And in that regard, it is one of the greatest sets for Hall of Fame rookie cards, and extremely affordable when you consider the cost of Hall of Fame rookie cards of players. Now, there's the caveat. Many of them aren't players, and many of the cards were produced decades after these people made their contribution to baseball. But it is their earliest card. And so for that reason, I think it's a really interesting set, and I hope you learned something. Thank you for watching. This has been Cardboard History.